Just a few days ago, Daniel Martell spoke out, claiming that Malaya was on the run from CPS and the RCMP with 3 children, including Meadow, their shared child. He was frantic, saying that Malaya had fled, taking the children with her, including Lilly and Jack. And then we got this. A few days before that, an interview took place where Belynda Gray, the biological grandmother of Lilly and Jack, spoke about Cody Sullivan, the biological father of the children. She made it clear that he had no involvement in the case, that he wasn't in prison, that he didn't have a criminal record, and that he has lived with for 9 months.
My son is Cody Sullivan. He's not in jail. He's never been out west. He does not have a criminal record. And right now he's living with me. He has been for 9 months.
And then we got this. This case has continuously been full of new information and new people emerging, pushing everything further away from what would typically be considered a missing persons case. It's almost ironic how so many individuals have been dragged into the spotlight, old and new, yet Lilly and Jack remain missing. So, where do we stand today? Cody Sullivan's criminal record. Let's first take a look at Cody Sullivan. The interview with Belynda Gray, the grandmother of Lilly and Jack Sullivan, was conducted in a tense and complex context. The disappearance of the 2 children had already sparked widespread attention from both the public and law enforcement. It was, in this environment, that Belynda first confirmed key details about Cody Sullivan, the biological father of Lilly and Jack. Her statements were the first clear and transparent insights into Cody and his family, providing much needed clarity in a case that had been surrounded by speculation and uncertainty. Before Belynda's interview, Cody Sullivan had been the subject of numerous rumors and allegations, largely due to his absence from the children's lives and the lack of public information about him. Many people had wondered about his role in the children's disappearance, often associating him with negative assumptions. However, Belynda's comments helped to establish a more nuanced picture of Cody's life and character. She emphasized that Cody had no criminal record, had never been incarcerated, and had never been out west. This revelation was significant, as it directly contradicted some of the earlier speculation and painted Cody as a man without a history of legal troubles. Belynda also shared that Cody had been living with her for the past 9 months, shedding light on his current situation and making it clear that he was not in hiding, as some had assumed. Belynda explained that, shortly after Lilly and Jack went missing, Cody was questioned by the police for approximately an hour and a half. This occurred around a month after the children were last seen. Interestingly, during the questioning, Cody was asked about his relationship with the children and the last time he had seen them. However, Belynda noted that Cody had not seen Lilly and Jack for the past 3 years, as the children had been living with Malaya, their mother, during that time. Cody's responses during the questioning seemed to surprise the authorities. When asked about simple questions like Lily's favorite color, Cody revealed that he did not know these details, as the children were still babies when he last saw them. Despite his apparent lack of recent involvement in the children's lives, Belynda clarified that Cody was not a suspect. The police later informed him that they were no longer looking in his direction, confirming that Cody was not under investigation for the children's disappearance. This cleared him of suspicion, yet the emotional toll of the questioning left him feeling upset, as he felt he had been made to appear guilty for something he had no involvement in. Cody and Malaya had been together for 3.5 years, during which time they were once considered the picture-perfect family. Belynda recalled how, at the beginning of their relationship, things seemed ideal. However, over time, Malaya began expressing dissatisfaction with their relationship, eventually deciding to petition the courts for sole custody of their children. Belynda shared that, in response to Malaya's decision, Cody walked away from the relationship, a move that led to a significant shift in his involvement with Lilly and Jack. The decision to let Malaya have sole custody marked a turning point for Cody, as he felt that it was better for the children to be raised by one stable parent rather than two parents who were emotionally broken. As a result, he chose to distance himself from the children's lives. Belynda further explained that she supported Malaya's decision, believing that one good parent was better than two parents who were no longer in harmony. However, it was clear that Cody's decision to step back from the family had a lasting emotional impact. Belynda expressed some sadness over Cody's choice, though she also recognized that the choice was ultimately his. She suggested that Cody's emotional detachment from the situation had been difficult for him to navigate, particularly in the face of family struggles. While Belynda painted Cody as a man who had made a decision for the sake of his children's stability, she also pointed out that Cody struggled with the separation from Malaya and the children. His choice to step away from their lives was not without its emotional consequences. As Belynda explained, Cody had not dealt well with the challenges of co-parenting, particularly when his relationship with Malaya began to deteriorate. Belynda reflected on how Cody had expressed regret over his lack of involvement in Lilly and Jack's lives, especially after their separation. She recognized that Cody had feelings of guilt about not being more present for his children. But at the same time, she acknowledged that the situation had been complicated, and Cody's decision to leave had been influenced by his own emotional struggles. One of the most critical aspects of Belynda's interview was her insistence that Cody had no motive to harm Lilly and Jack. She reiterated that Cody had no history of violence, and there was no reason to suspect him of being involved in the children's disappearance. This statement was important, as it contradicted some of the earlier rumors that had painted Cody as potentially dangerous or involved in criminal behavior. Belynda's words helped to clarify that, while Cody may not have been an ideal father figure due to his emotional distance, he had no harmful intentions towards his children. She emphasized that Cody's past was clean, and his lack of a criminal record reinforced the idea that he was unlikely to have been involved in any wrongdoing concerning Lilly and Jack. Belynda's account revealed much about the state of the family after Malaya and Cody's split. Cody's relationship with Malaya had soared, and while they were still legally connected through their children, their emotional bond had frayed. After their separation, Cody had little involvement in the children's lives, and it was clear that the family dynamics had shifted dramatically. Despite his emotional detachment, Belynda believed that Cody still loved his children, and the feelings of regret that accompanied his separation from them were genuine. However, she also acknowledged that Cody had made the decision to step back and allow Malaya to raise the children on her own, which was not an easy choice. From Belynda's perspective, Cody Sullivan was a man with a clean past, no criminal history, and a difficult emotional journey following his separation from Malaya. While he had walked away from his family for the sake of stability, this decision did not come without its emotional toll. The information provided by Belynda regarding Cody's status seemed to confirm his innocence, painting him as a man with a clean record. But there was one detail that wasn't entirely truthful: his criminal history. His full name is Cody Lee Sullivan. He was born in 1996. His background has been largely free of legal issues, with no prior criminal convictions, making the events surrounding his involvement in a robbery quite shocking for those familiar with his history. On the evening of Friday, 2024, around 8 p.m., Cody was involved in a robbery during an online marketplace transaction. The incident occurred when Cody, having arranged a meeting with a local seller to purchase a high-priced item, proceeded to threaten the seller with a knife. Cody demanded the merchandise and, after taking it, fled the scene in a pickup truck. The seller was able to provide a detailed description of the vehicle and its direction of travel, which allowed police officers to track down and apprehend Cody quickly. Thankfully, no one was injured in the incident. The stolen merchandise was found inside Cody's vehicle and was returned to the seller. Despite the severity of the crime, there were no physical injuries, and the situation was handled with minimal harm. Following the robbery, Cody Lee Sullivan was arrested and taken into custody. On the following day, June 22, he appeared before a judge and was released on bail. This incident marked the beginning of several court appearances for Cody, with legal proceedings set to continue over the course of 2024 and 2025. He has been charged with robbery, a serious criminal offense that involves the use of a weapon, in this case, a knife, to forcibly take property from another individual. As of now, Cody is awaiting his next court date in October 2025. The robbery charge has had significant implications for his life, and his upcoming trial will likely determine the extent of any legal consequences he may face. While Cody's criminal incident has garnered attention, many are still left wondering about his role, or lack thereof, in the disappearance of his children, Lilly and Jack. Some have speculated that Cody's silence on the matter and his lack of public statements regarding the children's disappearance may be linked to his legal troubles. Despite these speculations, it's clear that Cody has faced a complicated legal situation. The robbery incident, though not connected to the children's disappearance, has nonetheless placed him in a difficult position, with questions surrounding his involvement in both the criminal case and the ongoing search for Lilly and Jack. Given the seriousness of Cody's robbery charge, one might wonder why Belynda didn't bring it up when discussing his involvement, or lack thereof, in the case of her grandchildren. It's possible that Belynda chose to protect Cody's reputation or downplay his criminal behavior, especially in the context of the ongoing investigation. As his mother, she may have been trying to shield him from additional scrutiny, particularly if she still harbors a sense of loyalty or hope that Cody might eventually step forward in the search for Lilly and Jack. Alternatively, Belynda may have believed that Cody's legal troubles were unrelated to the case of the missing children, focusing instead on his absence from their lives in recent years. By omitting the robbery incident, Belynda might have been trying to focus on the family dynamics and Cody's relationship with Malaya, rather than introducing a potential distraction that could cloud the public's judgment of his involvement in the case. This silence also raises the possibility that Belynda herself may not have known the full extent of Cody's situation, especially if she were directly involved in the events leading up to his arrest. Another individual who has presented contradictory information to what Belynda stated is Daniel. He offered a different perspective on the situation. Daniel has repeatedly stated that Malaya was traumatized by Cody for a long time before she was with him. He emphasized that Malaya was deeply afraid of him, with this fear becoming a significant part of their troubled relationship. This claim was further supported by Darren Geddes, who confirmed that Malaya had PTSD and was also struggling with postpartum depression, which, according to him, led to her losing control and eventually fleeing, as many people have speculated. If this information is accurate, it raises several questions about what Belynda might have left out in her portrayal of Cody. According to Belynda's account, Cody was presented as a patient and long-suffering man, one who simply accepted Malaya's request for divorce and even gave up his custody rights willingly. However, if Cody was truly as passive and understanding as described, why would Malaya fear him so deeply? What horrific events might have transpired during their time together to cause Malaya's PTSD? Additionally, if Cody had truly given up custody voluntarily, why did Malaya feel the need to escape? Could it be possible that Cody didn't relinquish his parental rights willingly, but was instead denied access to Lilly and Jack by the court? This scenario would suggest that Cody's involvement in the children's lives may have been restricted, raising doubts about the narrative of him willingly stepping away from the family. The complex nature of their relationship and the trauma Malaya endured adds layers of uncertainty to the true dynamics of Cody's role and his involvement in the events leading up to the children's disappearance. The visitation of Daniel to Meadow. This image has sparked a wide range of reactions from the people following the case. It is the first photo of Daniel with a child from his family since the investigation began, and it has stirred up a lot of emotions. Some are happy for him, relieved to see him with Meadow again. Others are commenting on how adorable the child is, and noting that Meadow looks so much like him. There are also many questions surrounding this moment. One of the most pressing concerns is how Daniel was able to meet with Meadow when, not long ago, CPS had explicitly prohibited any contact between them. This has led people to wonder if there have been any recent developments in the investigation that might explain this shift. Moreover, there is growing confusion about the whereabouts of the other children, Jack and Lily. If Meadow is with Daniel, then where are they? Adding to the uncertainty, information from Daniel and others involved in the case suggests that Malaya may have fled with all 3 children, avoiding CPS and the RCMP. This raises further questions about what exactly happened, why they are missing, and how the investigation is proceeding. These unanswered questions are causing a mix of emotions, ranging from hope to doubt, as people try to piece together the mystery of what has truly transpired. The origin of the photo of Daniel and Meadow was told in a live stream yesterday by Darren Geddes. It's from Daniel's recent visit with his daughter, Meadow. He confirmed that Daniel had a meeting with Meadow not long ago, and described the visit as beautiful and emotional. Although there aren't many specifics about the encounter, it's clear that during the visit, Daniel was joyful and full of affection when he saw his daughter again after some time apart. What stands out here is not just the meeting itself, but that Daniel has the right to visit his daughter, Meadow. This is a significant point in the conversation because it shows that despite the chaos surrounding the case, Daniel and Meadow's relationship remains positive. Darren, who relayed the story, directly emphasized that the visit went very well and highlighted the healthy relationship between Daniel and his daughter. This suggests a different side to the story, one where Daniel isn't the perpetrator, but a father who is maintaining a loving and supportive bond with Meadow. Aside from the details about Daniel and Meadow's meeting, Darren also mentioned a lot of information that could explain some of the unclear points of the case from the very beginning. Darren's perspective on the case surrounding the missing children is multifaceted and reveals a growing sense of frustration, especially with how the investigation has unfolded. Initially, Darren believed that Daniel was responsible for the disappearance of the children. His family was certain that Daniel had either killed the children or was involved in some form of abuse prior to the incident. As the investigation progressed, however, Darren's viewpoint began to shift. He found himself questioning the evidence against Daniel, which seemed to point away from him and toward Malaya. Over time, Darren gathered more information and became increasingly convinced that Daniel was innocent and that Malaya's actions and her changing story were at the heart of the mystery. Darren explains that Malaya's initial false statement played a significant role in setting the investigation into motion. At first, Malaya panicked and claimed that the children were in the woods, sparking a large-scale search operation. This theory seemed plausible to authorities at the time, but Darren found this claim to be highly questionable, especially when Malaya quickly changed her story. She later said that the children had been abducted, which led to a full-blown criminal investigation. According to Darren, the inconsistencies in Malaya's story created a cloud of confusion and made it harder to find the truth. He believes that Malaya's lies were one of the primary reasons the investigation became so complicated, particularly since they led to unnecessary expenses, including satellite surveillance and search efforts. Furthermore, Darren highlights the role of Malaya's mother, Cindy, in this web of confusion. Cindy, he suggests, has had a strong influence over Malaya's behavior, advising her to stay silent and not reveal any information about the incident. This, Darren argues, could be why Malaya has been so tight-lipped and reluctant to engage in the investigation. Cindy's potential role in shielding her daughter from the truth only deepened the mystery. Darren also speculates that if Malaya were to confess, it could implicate Cindy as well, adding another layer to the already complicated situation. He is certain that Cindy's influence has made Malaya's role in the case more difficult to understand. As the investigation advanced, Darren became more frustrated with how it was being handled. He argues that, had the investigators focused more on Malaya's contradictory statements, they might have uncovered the truth more quickly. However, Darren also points out that the lack of concrete evidence against Daniel has made the case even murkier. Despite his earlier suspicions, he now believes that Daniel had no part in the children's disappearance. Instead, Darren is convinced that Malaya's changing story, her refusal to cooperate, and the influence of her mother are the true causes of the case's complications. Throughout his involvement in the case, Darren faced personal challenges as well. He received death threats and was ostracized by his family for getting involved. This not only added to his emotional strain, but also made him feel isolated in his pursuit of the truth. Darren openly expresses his frustration with the public's rush to judgment and the way the investigation has been handled. He feels that many people, particularly those online, have made assumptions about the case without having the full picture. This sentiment is evident in his criticism of those who have expressed opinions on the case, calling them out for being overly confident despite knowing very little about the actual facts. Ultimately, Darren believes that Malaya's actions, particularly her lies and her failure to provide truthful statements, are the key to understanding what really happened to the children. He is increasingly convinced that Malaya is the central figure in the case, and her mother, Cindy, has played a significant role in enabling her silence. Despite the mounting frustration, Darren maintains that Daniel is innocent and that the focus should now shift to uncovering the truth behind Malaya's false statements and their potential impact on the case. In addition, Darren also spoke extensively about Janie, Daniel's mother, who provided a lot of information regarding Malaya's strange behavior, but has never actually appeared in the media to confirm anything. Janie is a strong, no-nonsense woman who plays a crucial role in the mysterious disappearance of the children. Despite not being supposed to be in the trailer that night, she had planned to be with her boyfriend. Janie was inside the trailer, unaware to Malaya. Malaya, on the other hand, was leading the 3 children out of the trailer that morning. Janie was able to hear everything because the dog in the trailer started barking when Lily screamed, which immediately drew Janie's attention. At that point, Janie could clearly hear Malaya moving through the yard with all 3 children. Malaya had Meadow in her hands, while the other 2 children were walking alongside her, heading toward the gate. As the dog continued barking, Janie became alert and quickly got up to secure the dog and make sure it wouldn't get out. When she stepped outside, she noticed Malaya standing by the side of the road, but the 2 children were nowhere to be seen. There was no sign of any vehicles in the area, and no other people around. This unusual situation left Janie suspicious, and her concerns grew when she saw that the children had simply disappeared. As she got closer to Malaya, she realized that the 2 children were missing, and their sudden absence added to her growing uncertainty about the events. This incident raised many questions for Janie, and she began to feel increasingly uneasy about what had actually happened. In her role, Janie was the one who reported this strange situation to the authorities, the RCMP. She gave a full report but was hesitant to engage with the media. Janie refused media interviews, especially when some outlets tried to bribe her with muffins in an attempt to manipulate her for a story. Despite these offers, Janie remained firm and did not allow herself to be influenced. Her refusal to speak to the press further underlined her seriousness and integrity, as she wanted to protect herself and her family from any further manipulation. Janie is portrayed as a woman who is not easily fooled. Darren was surprised when Janie confided in him about the situation. While she didn't share this information with others, she trusted him enough to reveal details of that morning's events. She is described as honest, strong, and protective of her privacy and her family, refusing to let anyone take advantage of her. The events surrounding Janie's actions and what she overheard on that morning provide important insights into the situation. The trailer, where Janie and Malaya were living, becomes the backdrop for the strange disappearance of the children. Janie's reaction to the barking dog and her subsequent actions demonstrate her alertness and suspicion. When she stepped outside to investigate, she saw Malaya standing by the road but noticed the children had mysteriously vanished. The absence of any vehicles or people in the vicinity made the whole situation even more perplexing. Ultimately, Janie's role in the case is pivotal, not only as a witness, but also in the way she reacted to the unfolding events. Her behavior and her decision to report the incident to the authorities, while resisting media pressure, further solidified her integrity and determination to protect her family from unnecessary scrutiny. Darren's claim that Janie is the one who shared with him the peculiar behaviors of Daniel may tell that she is the one who told him ironclad information. Janie, living right in the trailer and being in such close proximity to Daniel and Malaya's home, would undoubtedly have access to a wealth of information about their lives. Given her position, it's reasonable to assume that Janie knows a great deal about what happens within their household, both in terms of daily routines and potentially unsettling behaviors. However, whether Janie is indeed the source Darren has alluded to in his previous statements remains unclear. Darren has been adamant that he would only disclose the identity of his source if the information provided to him is proven to be false. This raises the question, is Janie the trusted informant Darren has repeatedly referred to, or is there someone else involved? His insistence on withholding the source's identity unless the details he's received are disproven suggests a level of caution, and possibly even a strategic move to protect the integrity of the information he's gathered. It's this level of ambiguity surrounding the source's identity that leaves room for doubt. Even though Janie's proximity to Daniel and Malaya certainly positions her as someone with valuable insight into their lives. However, without a definitive confirmation from Darren, it's still open to speculation whether Janie is indeed the key source behind the ironclad information he shared. The inconsistencies. Who is lying? The meeting between Daniel and Malaya has sparked significant contradictions in the case, particularly as is against Daniel's previous statements that Malaya fled with all 3 children. However, if this claim is indeed true, it raises numerous questions about the situation of those involved, especially Malaya, Daniel, and most importantly, Lilly and Jack. One possibility suggests that Malaya left with Lilly and Jack in an attempt to escape the difficult circumstances in her life. This assumption put on emotional and psychological factors, as well as the apparent strain between Malaya and her family. One of the key pieces of supporting evidence comes from Daniel Martell and other family members. They believe that Malaya left with the children to escape her troubled home life and the pressure from her mother, Cindy Murray. Daniel and some family members have claimed that Malaya's relationship with her mother was tense and controlling, leading her to seek freedom. This emotional turmoil may have pushed Malaya to take the drastic step of leaving with her 2 children. In addition, Malaya's psychological state provides further context for her actions. It is widely believed that she was struggling with postpartum depression and high levels of stress, which could have led to impulsive decisions. The emotional strain of living in a difficult home environment, combined with mental health challenges, may have prompted her to flee with Lilly and Jack in an effort to start fresh. The fear and anxiety Malaya was reportedly feeling about her situation might have clouded her judgment and made leaving seem like her only option. Furthermore, Cindy Murray's influence over Malaya's life cannot be overlooked. Reports suggest that Cindy exerted a lot of control over Malaya's decisions, and Malaya may have felt trapped by her mother's presence and expectations. This feeling of entrapment might have pushed her to seek a way out, even if it meant leaving everything behind, including her own family. Malaya's decision to leave may have been motivated by a desire to find a better life for herself and her children. The idea of escaping from her oppressive environment and finding a safe space for her children may have seemed like the best course of action at the time. Some sources suggest that Malaya might have received help from extended family or close friends, who could have provided transportation or shelter, making the escape possible. However, there are several pieces of evidence that contradict the idea that Malaya left with her children. One of the main issues is the absence of clear signs that Malaya was planning to leave. If she had truly intended to escape, she would likely have prepared for such a drastic move, such as packing belongings or informing someone she trusted. Instead, there are no clear indicators that she was planning for a departure, which raises questions about whether the theory of her leaving is accurate. Another significant point of contradiction is the fact that Malaya left Meadow behind. If Malaya had planned to leave with Lilly and Jack, it is highly unlikely that she would have left Meadow behind without any explanation. Meadow was reportedly very close to Malaya, and it seems out of character for her to leave her behind in such a situation. This inconsistency creates doubt about the validity of the assumption that Malaya left with her children. Moreover, the lack of immediate action from the authorities and the absence of any significant movement from Malaya after the disappearance are also problematic. If she had planned to escape, she would likely have made some effort to evade the authorities or communicate with someone for help. However, there are no clear reports of her doing so, which suggests that the idea of a planned escape might not be entirely accurate. Additionally, while Malaya's emotional state may have been a contributing factor, there is no clear motivation strong enough to justify leaving her family behind. While she may have felt overwhelmed, leaving her children and her home without a plan seems inconsistent with someone trying to escape a difficult situation. If Malaya had been seeking a new life, it is likely she would have made more preparations for her children's safety and well-being. Finally, Daniel's statements about Meadow are also critical. He emphasized that Malaya was deeply attached to Meadow and had even threatened to take extreme actions if CPS attempted to remove Meadow from her care. This statement contradicts the idea that Malaya would leave Meadow behind if she were truly planning to escape with her other children. If this assumption is correct, Malaya could be the one responsible for taking Lilly and Jack with her in an attempt to escape her life. Feeling overwhelmed and desperate, she may have believed that leaving was her only option. However, this raises the question of why she would leave Meadow behind, which remains a point of significant concern in this theory. Cindy Murray, Malaya's mother, may not have been directly involved in the decision to leave, but her influence over Malaya's life is undeniable. Cindy may have been part of the reason why Malaya felt trapped and unable to make her own decisions, which could have pushed Malaya to escape. If Cindy was a controlling figure in Malaya's life, she may have indirectly played a role in the events leading up to Malaya's disappearance. The theory that Malaya left with Lilly and Jack presents a compelling explanation for their disappearance, but it is fraught with contradictions. While it is plausible that Malaya, feeling emotionally and psychologically overwhelmed, may have chosen to leave, the absence of preparation, the unexplained departure of Meadow, and the lack of clear evidence make this theory difficult to fully accept. Further investigation is necessary to determine whether Malaya's disappearance was truly a case of her running away to escape her circumstances, or if there is another explanation behind the children's disappearance. Another troubling assumption has emerged that suggests Malaya, the mother of the missing children, may have fled with them, but was later apprehended by authorities. This theory introduces a complex narrative involving the intervention of law enforcement, the Children's Protective Services, CPS, and the family dynamics that have contributed to the ongoing mystery. While this assumption is far from confirmed, it raises several intriguing questions regarding the actions of Malaya, the involvement of law enforcement, and the safety of the children. According to some credible sources from the family and close associates, Malaya allegedly fled with her children, Lilly and Jack, after becoming overwhelmed by her circumstances. However, this escape was short-lived. Reports suggest that after Malaya left, she was eventually tracked down by law enforcement officials, who discovered her in a remote area, possibly near the border or in a secluded part of the region. The authorities acted swiftly, ensuring that she was apprehended in order to secure the safety of the children. This sequence of events raises suspicions about the motivations behind Malaya's actions and whether her decision to leave was influenced by internal family pressures or external factors. Once Malaya was apprehended, the children were immediately placed under the care of CPS. The Children's Protective Services took custody of Lilly, Jack, and Meadow, the youngest child. As the children were separated from their mother, they were placed in a protective environment, with CPS overseeing their well-being. This action suggests that Malaya's escape was not merely an attempt to leave a difficult situation, but possibly an effort to remove the children from an environment they may have considered unsafe. The authorities, aware of the severity of the situation, took immediate steps to ensure that the children were cared for in a safe and secure manner while further investigations unfolded. Despite these actions, the details surrounding Malaya's apprehension remain unclear. There has been no official confirmation from the authorities regarding the exact time and location of her capture. The lack of concrete evidence leaves room for doubt about the circumstances of her arrest. Some witnesses claim that Malaya remained within the local area and was not immediately apprehended, suggesting that the authorities might not have acted as swiftly as believed. Additionally, there are no significant reports of her changing her behavior or communication patterns after her alleged capture, which raises further concerns about the accuracy of the claim that she was apprehended in the first place. If the theory of Malaya's escape and subsequent capture holds true, the primary suspects in this scenario would include the police and CPS. The law enforcement agencies involved would be responsible for the decision to apprehend her, though they have yet to publicly disclose the details of the investigation. The secrecy surrounding Malaya's apprehension suggests that there may be elements of the case that are still being withheld from the public for security or investigative reasons. Similarly, CPS has become a key player in the aftermath of the children's separation from their mother. While they have taken responsibility for the children's welfare, their involvement could potentially be scrutinized as part of the ongoing investigation. At the same time, Malaya herself becomes a critical figure in this narrative. If she indeed left with the children, it's possible that her decision was driven by psychological distress, including postpartum depression, or the pressure from family members, particularly from her mother, who has reportedly exerted a strong influence on her. This family dynamic, marked by tension and emotional strain, could have contributed to Malaya's decision to flee with the children. However, if Malaya was indeed apprehended by the authorities, her actions raise further questions about whether she was attempting to protect the children from harm, or whether her own mental health played a significant role in her actions. Should this assumption prove accurate, the legal ramifications for Malaya could be significant. Authorities may pursue criminal charges related to her flight with the children, including potential accusations of child endangerment or neglect. Additionally, her actions might lead to legal battles over custody and the children's future care. Given the complexity of the situation, the authorities would likely conduct a thorough investigation into Malaya's motivations and her relationship with the children to determine whether her actions were justified, or if they were a result of her own psychological turmoil. The intervention of CPS and other social services will undoubtedly play a crucial role in determining the next steps for the children. The separation of the children from their mother could lead to contentious debates over custody and guardianship, with Malaya's actions possibly fueled by emotional distress. The court may need to evaluate whether she is fit to regain custody of the children, or whether they should remain under the care of CPS or another protective agency. This situation could escalate into a legal battle, with the children's well-being at the center of the dispute. In the aftermath of Malaya's apprehension, the family dynamics may also become more complex. Malaya's mother, who has reportedly had a significant influence over her actions, may face scrutiny for her role in Malaya's flight. If Malaya's escape was, in part, a reaction to family pressures, there could be an investigation into the family environment and whether it contributed to her decision to leave. Similarly, Malaya's relationship with Daniel, the children's stepfather, may also be called into question, as it could have been a source of tension that led to the family's disintegration. Despite the ongoing investigation and the actions taken by CPS, the case remains filled with uncertainty. If Malaya was indeed apprehended after fleeing with the children, it could point to a deeper issue of family dysfunction and the pressures that drove her to take such drastic steps. The authorities must continue to work to uncover the full details of the case and determine whether Malaya's actions were motivated by a genuine desire to protect the children or by other, more complicated emotional and psychological factors. In the meantime, the fate of Lilly, Jack, and Meadow remains in the hands of CPS as they navigate the complexities of child welfare and family law. For the most controversial assumptions, it suggests that Malaya, the children's mother, may not have actually left as reported. This theory suggests that Malaya could still be in the area, not hiding from her family or law enforcement as previously believed. If this assumption is true, the conflicting statements and actions from Daniel and Darren raise suspicions about their motives. Both may be either intentionally spreading misinformation or pushing law enforcement to investigate Malaya hastily, in order to cover up the truth or redirect the investigation for their own benefit. One of the primary pieces of evidence supporting this theory comes from the inconsistent statements made by Daniel. While many have reported that Malaya left with the children, Daniel's testimony is full of contradictions regarding whether or not she actually departed. If Malaya truly hadn't left, then Daniel's conflicting accounts could be a deliberate attempt to divert attention away from the truth or his own involvement in the situation. Daniel's behavior is also telling. After he reported that Malaya had disappeared, he showed no signs of panic or urgency to find his children. This lack of emotional response raises doubts about whether he was genuinely concerned about the children's whereabouts, or if he were focused on advancing a narrative that could absolve him of any wrongdoing. Darren's involvement also deepens the mystery. Although Darren claims to have inside information regarding Malaya's situation, he has provided vague and unclear statements. He asserts that Malaya may not have actually left, but he fails to offer any concrete evidence to support this. Darren's ambiguous remarks could be a tactic to muddy the waters and complicate the investigation. Furthermore, Darren has alluded to having information about Malaya being investigated by authorities, but he refuses to share further details. This could be a deliberate strategy to encourage law enforcement to focus on Malaya, pushing them to launch a rushed investigation while possibly distracting them from other critical aspects of the case. Another key factor supporting this theory is the lack of concrete evidence that Malaya ever actually left the area. Despite numerous reports suggesting she had fled with the children, there has been no physical evidence confirming this. No one has reported seeing her leave, and no clear traces have been found to suggest she was ever outside the local area. This creates a plausible argument that Malaya may have remained in the area, and the claims made by Daniel and Darren could be part of an effort to conceal information or mislead authorities. The ambiguity surrounding Malaya's whereabouts fuels suspicions that those involved may be intentionally creating confusion to divert attention away from the truth. On the other hand, there are opposing arguments that challenge this theory. Some witnesses continue to assert that Malaya and the children are no longer in the area, suggesting that she did, in fact, leave. These accounts contradict the assumption that she stayed behind, but they don't entirely clear Daniel and Darren of suspicion. If Malaya had indeed left, it would make sense for her to have moved quickly and quietly, making it harder for others to track her. However, the continuing contradictions in the statements of those close to her, especially Daniel and Darren, cast doubt on the reliability of these claims. Additionally, the police have not provided any definitive evidence to suggest that Daniel or Darren's statements have led them to an important breakthrough. While Daniel and Darren's conflicting testimonies could be seen as an attempt to interfere with the investigation, there is no conclusive proof that law enforcement has been swayed by their actions. The police have continued their investigation despite the confusing information, though it has made the case more difficult to resolve. If Malaya has truly stayed behind, she may have been avoiding contact with law enforcement or her family for personal or psychological reasons. There could be various factors, such as strained family relationships or unresolved mental health issues, that caused her to distance herself, even if she remained in the area. In this case, the actions of Daniel and Darren might be motivated by a desire to conceal their involvement or to protect Malaya from further scrutiny. Their behavior could be interpreted as part of a broader effort to manipulate the investigation, causing delays or pushing the focus away from their possible roles in the children's disappearance. Should this assumption prove accurate, Daniel and Darren would likely become the primary suspects in the case. If they are found to have intentionally misled authorities, their motives would need to be thoroughly investigated. Daniel's possible desire to protect Malaya, or to shield himself from responsibility, could explain why he has provided conflicting statements about her whereabouts and the events surrounding the children's disappearance. Darren's reluctance to provide clear details, despite claiming to have important information, suggests that he may be trying to divert law enforcement's attention to Malaya and away from other potential leads. If the theory is correct and Malaya hasn't left, the police would likely face increasing pressure to clarify the situation. The inconsistencies in Daniel and Darren's statements would need to be addressed, and their possible roles in spreading confusion or withholding information would come under scrutiny. Law enforcement may need to adjust their investigative methods to account for the deliberate misdirection or misinformation being spread by those close to Malaya. The investigation would need to explore whether Daniel and Darren are obstructing justice or manipulating the facts for personal reasons. Malaya, if she truly hasn't left, would also need to be confronted about her actions. Her avoidance of communication with the authorities or her family could raise serious questions about her involvement in the situation. She might face legal repercussions for her role in creating confusion or withholding information, especially if her actions were seen as interfering with the investigation. Her psychological state, including any potential mental health struggles, would also need to be taken into account when determining her responsibility in the case. Ultimately, if this theory holds true, the investigation will need to shift focus toward determining why Daniel and Darren provided misleading information and what their true motives were in doing so. The police would need to examine their statements carefully, and the potential consequences for Malaya's role in the situation would need to be explored. As the case continues to unfold, the involvement of all parties, including Daniel, Darren, and Malaya, will be scrutinized as the truth behind Lilly and Jack Sullivan's disappearance comes to light. What is really happening? The disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan has garnered significant public attention, and the investigation has become a focal point for both authorities and the general public. However, as of now, the situation remains unclear, with many theories circulating and pieces of information that are yet to be verified. The silence from the has only added to the confusion, and the lack of official statements has made it even more difficult to unravel the mystery. Multiple sources have contributed to the narrative surrounding the case, with varying levels of reliability. As the investigation continues, Several pieces of information have emerged from different channels, but many remain unsubstantiated or contradictory, adding complexity to an already uncertain situation. The volume of sources is considerable, with accounts coming from family members, close associates, witnesses, and social media platforms. These varied sources have provided different perspectives on the timeline of events and the possible whereabouts of Lilly and Jack. In particular, the accounts from the local community have played a key role in spreading theories, some of which have been more speculative than factual. While these theories offer valuable insight into the case, they often lead to confusion or misdirection when compared to the available evidence. Among the sources, there are those that can be considered reliable. Testimonies from family members and close friends have provided critical details about the events leading up to the disappearance. These individuals are familiar with the family dynamics and have been closely involved in the case. However, despite their proximity to the situation, there are discrepancies in their statements. This inconsistency has made it difficult to establish a clear, unified account of the events. For example, some family members have reported seeing Malaya with the children, while others have suggested that she may have left with them, under unclear circumstances. These contradictions complicate the task of verifying the true sequence of events. Equally important are the official statements from the RCMP. Although they have been careful with the release of information, the RCMP remains the most authoritative source regarding the ongoing investigation. However, the lack of transparency and minimal updates from the authorities has fueled public skepticism. The silence from the RCMP has created a vacuum of information, which has been filled by rumors and unofficial accounts. The longer the RCMP remains silent, the more the public's trust in the investigation is eroded. Without concrete updates or further disclosures, people are left to rely on alternative sources, some of which are less reliable. In addition to the reliable sources, there are also those that require caution. Social media and blogs have become a significant outlet for information about the case. While these platforms provide a space for public discussion, they are often filled with unverified claims, speculation, and hearsay. Many of the posts on these platforms are not supported by solid evidence and may mislead the public. Furthermore, misinformation can spread rapidly on these channels, making it harder to discern what is true and what is not. Social media, while offering real-time updates, can often create more confusion than clarity. Another source that requires careful scrutiny is the information from individuals like Darren Geddes. Despite his family connection, Darren's statements have been vague and lacking in concrete evidence. While he claims to have important insights into the case, his reluctance to provide clear details has raised questions about the validity of his claims. Darren's involvement, especially his ambiguous comments, has created more uncertainty, and his role in the case is still unclear. His testimony could be seen as an attempt to influence the investigation, but without clear proof, it is difficult to assess the true value of his statements. As the investigation progresses, it is clear that the case is shrouded in complexity. The conflicting information from various sources has created a murky picture of what really happened. The RCMP's ongoing investigation remains the most important factor, but the lack of transparency has hindered the process. Public trust in the investigation could be bolstered by more openness from the authorities. But, for now, the case continues to unfold amidst uncertainty and speculation. For the side of the police, the RCMP currently holds the responsibility for leading the investigation into the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. Despite their significant role, the actions and statements from RCMP have yet to provide enough clarity to resolve the case. The investigation has involved large-scale search efforts, utilizing advanced technologies such as drones and underwater search teams. However, despite these resources, the case has not made significant progress, leaving many questions unanswered. One of the most notable aspects of the current investigation is the silence maintained by RCMP. This quiet approach has raised suspicions about the transparency of their efforts. As the investigation continues, the lack of information being released to the public has led to growing doubts. Many individuals are concerned that RCMP may be withholding crucial information, which could explain the lack of visible progress. This has also contributed to an atmosphere of uncertainty, where it seems that the authorities are either unable to resolve the situation or are intentionally keeping the details of the investigation under wraps. The decision for RCMP to remain silent may be rooted in a desire to protect the integrity of the investigation. By limiting the release of information, they might be attempting to prevent outside interference and minimize the potential for misleading rumors or false leads to disrupt the gathering of evidence. Keeping certain details confidential could be a strategy to ensure that the investigation proceeds without the influence of external factors that might cloud judgment or misdirect resources. However, this silence is not without its drawbacks. The lack of communication from RCMP has led to a loss of trust among the public. Many people feel alienated, and there is a sense of frustration from both the community and the families involved. The failure to provide regular updates has made it difficult for people to feel confident that the authorities are doing everything they can to solve the case. Moreover, the absence of clear and transparent communication has raised doubts about whether RCMP is fully equipped to handle the complexity of the situation. In the absence of transparency, the silence of RCMP may end up being counterproductive. While it may be meant to protect the investigation, it has also caused a rift between the police and the public. The families of the missing children, as well as the broader community, are left feeling unsupported and isolated, wondering if their concerns and the urgency of the case are being taken seriously. The longer the RCMP maintains this stance, the more likely it is that public confidence will continue to erode, further complicating the resolution of the case. In conclusion, while RCMP's silence may have been initially intended to preserve the integrity of the investigation, it has sparked suspicion and distrust among the public. Moving forward, it will be crucial for RCMP to strike a balance between protecting the details of the investigation and maintaining transparency with the public to restore trust and ensure that the case of Lilly and Jack Sullivan is handled with the urgency it requires. As the investigation into the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan continues, there are several potential developments and actions that could unfold in the coming days and weeks. One of the most likely outcomes is the ongoing investigation and search efforts. RCMP may expand their investigation, potentially seeking support from international agencies or organizations outside of Canada. This would be particularly relevant if new evidence suggests that Lilly and Jack may have been taken out of the province or even the country. The search could extend beyond local jurisdictions as authorities follow leads and piece together the growing body of evidence. The involvement of international resources may be necessary to track down the children or any suspects who may have taken them. Another possibility is that charges could be filed once more information and evidence come to light. If the investigation reveals key details about who is responsible for the children's disappearance, particularly those with close ties to the victims, there could be legal ramifications. Individuals who have played significant roles in this case, such as family members or others in the immediate circle of Lilly and Jack, might face formal charges. These legal proceedings could bring clarity to the situation, providing closure to the investigation and possibly identifying the culprits behind the children's disappearance. There is also a strong possibility that new witnesses may come forward. As the case progresses, additional evidence or testimonies may surface that could change the course of the investigation. Witnesses who were previously unaware of their significance may come forward with crucial details that could provide new leads. Furthermore, information from those closely involved with the Sullivan family, such as relatives or close friends, may also emerge. These individuals could possess knowledge that has yet to be revealed, and their cooperation could prove instrumental in solving the case. The role of the community in the investigation will likely remain significant. if RCMP does not provide adequate information or updates. The media and social networks could continue to amplify the case. As public pressure mounts, both online communities and traditional news outlets may intensify their coverage, keeping the case in the public eye and potentially applying additional pressure on law enforcement to act quickly. The public's interest in the case could lead to further developments. As media attention often accelerates action from authorities, the final outcome of the investigation will likely hinge on several key factors. First, there is a possibility that the children could still be found if new information about their whereabouts becomes available. If leads are pursued effectively, and the authorities focus their efforts on areas where the children may have been taken, it could result in the children being located. This may involve renewed searches in areas like native communities or locations outside the province, as well as the use of technology and specialized search teams. Additionally, if the investigation uncovers evidence that Lilly and Jack are still being held illegally, legal decisions regarding their custody and protection will need to be made. Should it be confirmed that the children have been kept against their will, there could be significant legal implications, including custody hearings, protective orders, and the involvement of child welfare services. The legal framework surrounding their care and protection would be crucial in ensuring their safety and securing their future. In conclusion, the coming weeks in the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case will be shaped by ongoing investigative efforts, the potential emergence of new evidence or witnesses, and the influence of public pressure. The outcome of the case will depend on how effectively law enforcement and the community work together to uncover the truth, locate the children, and hold those responsible accountable for their actions. The case of Lilly and Jack Sullivan serves as a stark reminder of the importance of transparency and communication in both law enforcement and family dynamics. The lack of clear information and conflicting statements have made an already tragic situation even more difficult to navigate. It highlights the need for quick and decisive action from authorities when dealing with missing persons, especially children, and the significance of involving the public to aid in investigations. Additionally, the emotional toll on families involved in such cases underscores the importance of mental health support and open communication within families. Ultimately, this case teaches us that the truth, no matter how uncomfortable, must come to light in order to ensure justice and safety for those involved. The collective effort of authorities, families, and communities is crucial in solving such complex cases and protecting vulnerable individuals.